Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Syed Akif Shah, lecturer finance at Institute of Business Studies, Kohat University of Science and Technology. The title of this course is Business Research Methods and the course code for this subject is MS 312. This is lecture number 26 and the topic for today's discussion is method of scaling, or how a researcher is going to design the methods for scaling different variables in order to collect the relevant data pertinent to the or related with the problem of the study. So the outline of this lecture consists of the discussion related with methods of scaling, under which specifically we shall discuss the rating scales and how a researcher is going to utilize rating scales in order to collect the data regarding the area of interest and the variables, and as well as regarding the variables which are important for the current study for research work. So how to develop the scales, as we have discussed in my previous lecture, the four types of scales that can be utilized to measure the operationally defined dimensions and elements of the variable with respect to the nominal standard. We have discussed the ordinal data and collection, interval data, and finally the ratio scales can be utilized to collect the data. However, in order to calculate or gather the data regarding the attitudinal responses, we can develop another scaling method known as the rating scale. It is necessary to examine the method of scaling, that is assigning numbers or samples to elicit or to arouse the attitudinal responses of the subjects towards, subjects means the respondents, towards objects, events, and the persons, whatever the prime interest of the researcher is to collect data regarding those pertinent events or attitudes by the respondents. So categories of attitudinal scales, not to be confused with four different types of scales what we have previously discussed. So therefore we can say these are actually the rating scales, and the rating scales have several response categories and are used to elicit the responses with respect to the object, event, person we are going to study in our research work. So let's discuss the first category, the rating scales. We also have normally the ranking scale, which is not part of this lecture. The emphasis of this lecture is specifically on the rating scales utilized by the researcher while conducting a research work. So the following rating scales are often used in organizational research. Number first is a dichotomous variable. A dichotomous scale can be utilized to collect the data related with problem of the study or research. We have category scale, Likert scale, numerical scales. Fifth one is known as semantic differential scale. Then we have itemized rating scales. At seventh, we have fixed or constant sum rating scale. Then Stapel scale. This is actually S-T-A-P-E-L. Let me change. S-T-A-P-E-L scale. Stapel scale has a small clerical spelling mistake. However, it could be rectified later on. Graphical rating scale. So let's discuss these 9 different types of rating scale one by one. Number first is a dichotomous scale. It is used to elicit a response related with yes or no type of questions. Note that a nominal scale is used to elicit the responses. Like for example, do you own a car? If the researcher is interested to find out the data related with how many people own a car in a particular organization, then he is actually collecting the data on the basis of dichotomous scale. Similarly, we have a category scale. It is used for multiple items to elicit a single response. For example, if the question related with the research is like, where in Pakistan do you reside? Like we are making a demographic type of study. So we have the specific categories available like Islamabad, Karachi, Lahore, Peshawar, or any other city of the Pakistan. So the respondent can select any specific city pertinent to his residence. Such kind of scaling is known as category scales, because we are going to categorize the employees working in a particular organization belonging to any specific city. Then we have a Likert scale. This is an interval scale, and the differences in the responses between any 2 points on the scale remains the same. It is designed to examine how strongly the subject agree or disagree with the statement on a 5-point scale, such as follows. Like for example, there could be a question that either the respondent are having the agreement with the statement or disagreement with the statement, and they can intensify their agreement and disagreement on the basis of Likert scale. We also have a neutral or not disagreement, neither agree nor disagree point. Like if some respondents are reluctant to give the agreement or disagreement regarding any personal question, so they can opt for the answer of neither agree nor disagree. So a neutral point is also available in the Likert scale. Usually it is 5-point scale, however you can extend it towards 6 and 7 points as well. 6 and 7 points, 9 points, whatever the researcher's choice of intensifying the response of the respondent may be. So the respondent can either select for the statement as they are strongly agree with the statement, they might disagree with the statement, they show their self as a neutral towards the question answer session. Similarly, they can intensify their agreement by simply saying they agree by opting or encircling the agree point number 4. And finally, if this respondent is strongly agreeing with that specific phenomena, then he or she can opt for the 5 number or encircle the 5 on Likert scale. Then fourth category is a semantic differential scales. This is also basically an interval based scale to collect the data. However, we are going to utilize the extreme values in these scales. Let's take an example, like what is your opinion on your supervisor while working in an organization? Like in order to check out the relationship between supervisor and subordinate on the basis of extreme values, like as mentioned in this scale. So on the basis of extreme values, the respondent may answer that either the supervisor is highly responsive or they are totally unresponsive when they are encountering with certain problem or situation. Similarly, they might have a beautiful mind setup or they are going to be an ugly person. Similarly, the respondent can opt for any of the 2 extreme answers, like the supervisor is highly courageous person, or maybe the supervisor is a timid and a coward personality. So such kind of words are totally antonyms to each other and they belong to the extreme values. So when the researcher is interested to find out the extreme responses of the individuals or the persons, such kind of scale is known as semantic differential scale. Let's discuss the 5th scale, which is numerical scale. It is similar to a semantic differential scale what we have previously discussed, with the differences that here we are going to have 5 points or 7-point scale, so that to intensify the response. Like for example, once again a researcher is interested to find out how pleased you are with your new job. There is going to be a survey that whether the newly hired employee is pleased and satisfied with his job or not. So there are 2 extremes as in the semantic differential scales, extremely pleased and extremely displeased. And the respondent is going to select one of the option on the scale of 5 to 1 or 1 to 5. If the respondent is selecting point number 1, as this is near to the extreme displeasement, therefore the researcher will consider his response as the person is displeased or unhappy with the new job. Similarly, the more near towards the extreme, please, the answer is the researcher can infer that the respondent or the employee who is working on the new job is extremely pleased with his new job or new work environment. When such kind of scale is there to collect the data related with your research problem, it is known as numerical scale. Then we have an itemized rating scale. Once again, we are going to have 5 or 7 point scale for each item, and the respondent once again state the appropriate number on the either side of the item. Therefore, once again, it is known as an interval scale. What basically the itemized rating scale make it different than the previous one is, with the help of example, we can elaborate that respond to each of the item using scale below and indicate your answer, indicate your response on the line by each item. Let's take an example that once again we are going to select the appropriate answer pertinent to the specific research question or in the questionnaire, like are you going to be very unlikely with the statement, and this such kind of phenomena may be unlikely to be available in the organization, neither unlikely nor likely, once again a neutral response. Similarly then the likely, and then we got another intensified extreme value which is saying that we are very likely that such kind of event may happen, like I will be changing my job in the near future. For example, if the researcher is interested to find out the data within the organization that how many of the respondents are going to change their job in the future, so the respondent may either answer that very unlikely, like the person is not going to change his job in future, or the respondent may opt for option number 5, which is telling us that there are highly likely chances that the respondent or that specific individual may change his job in the near future. Similarly, one can be neutral in this scale if he or she is not interested to disclose his future prospects and the career moves. Such kind of rating scale is known as a balanced rating scale. Since we have a neutral point in the middle, therefore such kind of rating scale is known as itemized balanced rating scale. We may also have unbalanced rating scales which does not have a neutral point, like that restrict the individual or the respondent to select one of the option, and they are unable to hide or conceal the information which is really important for the researchers to answer the solution to the study under consideration or study under the process. Let us explain it with the help of an example that, for example, the researcher is interested to find out how would you rate your interest in changing the current organizational policies. Like the organizational top management is going to have a change in the current organizational policy. So the researcher is interested that how would you rate your interest? Like, are you interested in the changing the current organizational policy, or you are least interested? So another research study in which the researcher is going to take the responses from the people working in that particular organization, and the instruction asks us to circle the number that is closest to how you feel for the item below. Now here we can see that the first point says that not at all interested. The individual is not interested at all in whatever the policies are going to be changed in the organization. And the other extreme value says that the researcher is extremely interested, like very much interested, to know about the current changing in the organizational policies. Here we can see that there is no neutral point, like either interested or not interested. So there is no response in the middle. Therefore, such kind of itemized rating scale is known as unbalanced rating scales, because there is no neutral point. See, the second answer says that the respondent is somewhat interested in the change in the organizational policy, and the third point says that they are moderately interested in the change in the organizational policy. So whatever option the respondent is going to select, the researcher will get certain kind of important information related with that individual or person. So when there is such kind of fixed and rating scale is available, we can say that it is known as an unbiased itemized rating scale. Let's discuss the 7 rating scale, which is fixed or constant sum scale. Here researcher is going to respond to take the respondents are asked. Researcher is going to ask such kind of question from the respondent to distribute a given number of points across the various items. For example, let's explain what kind of this fixed or constant sum scale is. The example says that in a choice, the researcher is interested to find out how the person or individual select a toilet soap. So indicate the importance you attach to each of the following 5 aspects what are mentioned by allocating points for rather here are 4 points, so we can say that explain the 4 aspects by allocating points for each to the total 100 in all. Let's suppose the researcher is interested to ask or know about that how many individuals are interested or look at the fragrance of the soap whilst they are selecting a particular soap for the toilet. Similarly, how many of them are interested in color, in shape, and then in size. So here fixed or constant sum says that the respondent have 100 points in total, and they are asked to give the importance of the characteristics of their own choice by allocating them the maximum number of points. Like for example, for fragrance, some people would like to select the soap on the basis of fragrance the most, so they can select that 60 points are for fragrance, 10 for color, 20 for shape, and similarly 10 for the size, and it all sum up to 100 points. So here we can judge that how much important a particular factor is for the respondent. When such kind of scale is there to collect the data related with the particular study under consideration, the scale is known as fixed or constant sum scale. This is more in the nature of an ordinal because we are actually giving the order or importance to the different factors related with the individuals. Stapel scale. Stapel scale is simultaneously measures both the direction and intensity. Here, this scale not only tells about the direction of importance of the variable, but it also intensifies the attitudes toward certain items. How to collect such kind of data? We will see an example shortly. So the characteristics of interest to the study is placed at the center, and numerical scale ranging from +3 to -3 or +5 to -5 may be presented to elaborate the importance of the characteristics or importance of the factor for that respondent on either side of the item and illustrated. Let's discuss how to do this, or how to collect data with the help of Stapel scale. Here is an example that the researcher is interested to know about or to state how you would rate your supervisor's ability with respect to each of the characteristics mentioned below by circling the appropriate number. The positive sign shows that the supervisor abilities are quite good enough in the positive direction, and when the employees or subordinate thinks that the supervisor abilities are weak and not appropriate, so they can give the negative number. Here not only we find out the positivity or negativity, but we can also intensify the response of the respondent. Like the researcher was interested to find out the adopting modern technology. So if the supervisor is well equipped to adopt the modern policies, the respondent will give the highest marks +3. And if the supervisor abilities are weak to adopt the modern technology, the extreme values shall be selected by the respondent. Similarly, the second factor says product innovation, how much he is able to have the product innovation. If he have a mediocre type of product innovation, so the respondent can select for encircle the +2. And similarly, let's suppose the supervisor ability is quite weaker on this phenomena, then the another respondent may select -3. Similarly, the third factor is on interpersonal scale, and this model Stapel scale says that the respondent can select that if their supervisor ability to utilize interpersonal skills, the interpersonal skills means to deal or talk in a good fashion with the employees or workers in the organization so that their problems may be solved. So such kind of interpersonal skills are available, or the supervisor is well equipped with such kind of skills, then the respondent will select +3. If the respondent thinks that the interpersonal skills are quite well enough or moderately okay, then he may select +1. Similarly, another individual who thinks that the supervisor's ability on the interpersonal scale is very much low, so that they can intensify the response by selecting the maximum negative point. So this is the method with the help of which we can collect data regarding our research problem or variable of prime interest with the help of Stapel scale. Last but not the least, the graphic method of rating the scale is really important. A graph representation should be there for the respondents to indicate on this scale their answer to a particular question by placing a mark on the appropriate point on the line. As let's suppose we have an example on a scale of 1 to 10. The researcher is interested to know about how would you rate your supervisor once again. This is a generic question where 10 is the highest number on the graph and the 1 is the lowest number on the graph. If you are going to select 10 point for your supervisor in general, then the researcher will assume that this supervisor is quite good in the generic perspective on the basis of their interpersonal skills, product innovations, liaison, and their friendly environment, problem solving nature, let's suppose. And if you are going to give lowest point on the graph, then the researcher will assume that the respondent thinks is of the opinion that the supervisor overall abilities or overall generic characteristics of personality is weak in that particular organization. So such kind of data when you are going to gather with the help of a graph to be presented to the respondent so that they can select any specific point placed on the graph. Such kind of data collection method is known as graphic rating scale, which enables to rank the answer of different respondent as well. So this was all about how the researcher collects data on the basis of rating scales. Beyond knowing the normal scaling methods or measurement techniques of nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scale, this rating scales really assist the researchers to collect the important and related data with the study. Thank you very much for listening to this lecture. If you have any question, feel free to ask on KCMS. And other way around, you can also email me on my official email address as mentioned in the footer. Good luck for the day. Allah Hafiz.